First thing you do is you remove all the strings. That can be done with, generally I do it with one of these, but since this is the first string, I'm just going to turn it by hand. And then how you remove the string is you just loosen enough the windings that you can lift this winding off right up here and unwind it. The reason why you don't want to unwind it all the way is because it saves wear and tear on your tuning machines. They have a tendency to wear out, especially if you have the original Clussons on your guitar, which I don't have for the very reason that they wore out. A quick trick, on almost all Fender style guitars you have these butterfly clip type dealies for the high E and B strings, and sometimes even the G and D down over here if you have like a CVS style guitar. Basically, one thing you can do to make it easier is just pop it out from under there like that. Removing string from the guitar, you push that bugger out the back end of the vibrato unit. Sometimes if you're somebody like me, you gotta push the bar down to get it back. It pulls straight back like that, and then it pulls out forward. First thing you do when you remove the tailpiece is you just lift out the bridge like this. Quick hint about Mustang bridges though, especially particularly on these Japanese models. On the Japanese models, these legs here have a tendency to screw themselves back in while playing guitar. Trick I've picked up on how to do this is to pick up some thin tape, like some Scotch tape. Just imagine this is it. And you just wrap a very thin layer, I'd say about a sliver, about that wide, and about that long, and about that wide. And you just wrap it around them and then try and wrap it around the posts, try to wedge it in and screw it back in, and what it does is it gummies up threads in here so it doesn't try and lower itself anymore. Another problematic part to these is the low E bridge saddle has a tendency, when screwed far back, for the screw to stick up too high, and what this does is it rattles against your string and causes buzzing. Well, I got lucky, and when I first bought my Jag Stang, the screw here backed itself out and disappeared. It was being held on by the low E string alone. So I went to the guitar shop, and they had this screw from a 66, 67 Fender Mustang over there, and we put that in the low E string bridge saddle. And because it's shorter, because it's a vintage Mustang screw, it's designed to be a bit shorter, it doesn't rattle up against the string. Alright, now we're going to talk about how the Mustang Vibrato works. You have your bar right here, stuck in this hole right there. It's held in by a little screw that goes in right there. In my case, the screw stripped out, so I started using these in there. And how it works is when you press down on the bar, well, say if the guitar is invisible and the bar is mounted on here. The springs pull this back bar forward, which counteracts the tension of the springs down here. So the strings pull it forward, the springs are counteracting tension of the strings. What happens is when you push the bar down, it loosens the strings, therefore lowering pitch, and the springs counteract the tension of the strings and pull it back up into pitch. If you're pulling back, it tightens the strings, makes the pitch go sharp, and these springs back here close up. And what happens is, since they're kind of loose, the strings pull them forward and counteract the tension of the springs, keeping it sort of a floating center pitch point. And that's how the vibrato works. On Mustang trems, there's two springs. They're removable by pulling them off like that and twisting them, and they come straight off. You have the two knife edge pivot points here. They're knife edge all the way around. Let me refocus just a little bit so y'all can see close up. So you can see mine are pretty well worn, but they still do the job, so I leave them as is. That's pretty much all to it. Take the bar out. On these here, I often put Vaseline or some sort of lubricant that's going to stick. Something like Vaseline or lithium grease. Gun grease works real well too. Just basically anything that's going to stay there. It might collect dirt after a while, so you might want to clean the pivots back off and then change it out after a while. Let's put this back on and put the new strings on the guitar. You put the bridge back in. Standard direction is with the intonation screws facing backwards. There you go. As you can see, I will show you some more on how this thing works. When you push down the bar, the strings ride on this bridge here. And when you push the bar down, the strings go forward with the bridge. When you pull back, they go backwards. Bullet 9-gauge strings. The reason why I use these is because they have a bullet end instead of a ball end on them. The problem with ball end strings that I have is that they tend to unravel. One way to get around it is by soldering them, like I did this one, although this one already broke and I rewired it back on there to makeshift my way through. But these are a lot better in my opinion, just for Jag Stangs. I use 9 through 42, you can use whatever you want. I've heard of some people using as high as 13. I've actually gone as high as a 14 on some guitars. This guitar had 13 flat wounds on it at one point even, although it was a real pain in the rear to get enough vibrato travel. How you run the strings through the bridge is like this. You run them through the front like that, and then it runs straight out the back. After you pull that through, it goes under the bar. This right here. And then it just pulls straight on through.